Welcome to Toronto. Nice and comfortable day here. Um, I'm actually at a very interesting spot. I'm actually at what you would say is the venue or the place where the Indian consulate is in Toronto. And if anyone's been following some of the uh, disturbances or the points of view and differences that have been going on over the last couple of weeks, maybe a month or so. It's to do with this resurgence of the Khalistani movement, and a sense that there is obviously from the Canadian government a sense that the Indian government had something to do, or not the government, but rather India had something to do with issues related to the Khalistani movement. Let me not go further, just to sort of maintain a certain neutrality. I thought, basically, hearing so much about what's been happening in the last couple of weeks. I was in New York, as some of you know, and I had to come up for a couple of days up here in Toronto. And I thought, let me find out what's happening. If you follow social media, it seems like, oh my goodness, right? Just across the street here, there seems to be a whole bunch of, different types of. Let me just get the camera back to me here. Seems to be a kind of a sense of rioting, not rioting as much, but kind of like two sides facing off each other. On one side, the Khalistani side, the other side, I guess, the nationalist Indian side or whatever. I mean, they're all Indians. I mean, this is the bizarre part. And so I thought, let me come by and see, what's going on. I mean, there must be all sorts of disturbances and security and whatnot. Nothing at all. Seems to be just like another day, another normal business day. No extra security. Doesn't seem to be any plans to, have any kind of demonstrations or anything like that. So I thought, in that case, let me sort of sit down and give you my perspective as much as I can. So I figured I'll wade into this for a couple of reasons. So my own background is that I'm a product of what I guess some of you might know as the partition. So my grandparents, and therefore my parents, were actually born in what is now Pakistan, in Rawalpindi and Lahore respectively. And during the time when India and Pakistan were being given their independence from British colonial rule, some people had the choice, whether you were of a certain faith or ethnicity, to choose either side. So if you were in Pakistan now and said, no, I want to move over to the India side, or vice versa, you only had a certain window to do it. And it was probably one of the most, terrible times. I mean, if you ever read up about the history of it all, just the number of deaths and loss of life and unnecessary kind of like bizarre craziness. But nonetheless, that's where I guess my parents were born, and then finally kind of came over to what is now the India side, and left behind not just a lot of love and a lot of memories, but even I remember till a couple of years ago when I used to speak to my parents, they used to talk about Lahore and Rawalpindi as if it was still home, And I've had so many, friends from Pakistan, Lahore, who've said such love and said, come over, we'll show you, everything that you wanted to ever see. And it's just crazy, I mean, the whole sort of period of time. So where I guess, you start looking at it from that perspective, ethnically, I'm Punjabi, and then you start hearing all of this crazy stuff going on, whether it's the Khalistan movement and other sort of resurgences and things like that. And you ask yourself, like, what's going on here? Why is this suddenly being fanned or flared up again? So I'm going to give you my very, I would say, please don't take this in any kind of a, real, I've not done any education in this, but having grown up and studied about enough of this, the origins of, I guess, the Khalistan movement, I guess, goes back to the late 70s, and it's a political one. Some will say that it had to do with the Indian political system at that time, and trying to sort of displace or create communal disharmony. And it never really took root until a certain fellow, Bhindranwale, was sort of projected up as the voice or the representation of the Khalistan freedom movement. And there became, I think, one of the most painful periods of modern India's history, where it led to not just Operation Blue Star, as some of you might know, in Amritsar, which was an absolute disaster of a military operation. But even then, I think it also had the biggest repercussion you can think of, which was the assassination of a prime minister, and so on and so on. But in any which way, I mean, if you're living in India or living as a diaspora outside, who is Sikh, who's Punjabi, it makes absolutely no difference. I mean, there is absolutely ethnically and responsibly no difference. In fact, I remember my parents or grandparents would say that growing up, they would always have the idea being that if you had a child and you only had one boy or one boy in the family, whether you were Punjabi, it didn't matter, that you would make him into a Sikh. The idea being that that was considered a responsibility. It was considered a certain amount of respect for the beliefs and the value system that the Sikh community has. And I remember growing up, my parents and I used to always believe this, that if you're ever lost in a city, if you're ever kind of wandering around or feeling like you're in a bit of a danger zone, if you ever see a gentleman in a turban, you can rest assured you're never going to be in danger. You can go up to him and say, hey, I need some help, and he will do whatever, is necessary. So all of that kind of just made me believe that all of that stuff was left back in the 80s, and we sort of left that all behind. But interestingly enough, in Canada and Toronto, I'm not sure why some people have different sort of theories behind this. Perhaps it's to do at the time of the 80s when a whole bunch of plane loads and flight loads were brought into Toronto from rural parts of Punjab, and there was this sense of perhaps representing a ethnic community that was being sort of persecuted or anything of that sort. And it led to a generational kind of creation, second generation, third generations now, who listened to their kind of fathers, parents, mothers, grandparents, and said, yeah, that must be true. We must have been really, really sort of under the gun or something. And I think that's what's led to this diaspora, and I hope as a very minority one, that still believes that there is a sense of purpose behind this. And I wish that many of them would just understand and see that it's absolutely mind-boggling and bewildering to a lot of us, not just of my generation, but even my children who've never seen the difference anywhere else, finds that there is a palpable sense of what's going on, when you see the differences being projected on social media. But it's just social media, honestly. I mean, here I am, like I said, I'm right in front of the Indian consulate, and everything that social media kind of tells you, whether it's oh my gosh, there's a bunch of people and they're doing crazy stuff here, and there's chaos on the streets. Nothing of the sort. Life as normal, life as usual. Kids are happy. Toronto is a university city. You'll see all ethnicities. It doesn't matter which part of India you're from. Everyone's just happily getting along, doing just fine by themselves. And it's this very small vocal minority, is the sense I'm getting, which is just trying to create, I guess, a raison d'etre. And I would really urge almost anyone and everyone from, the Indian subcontinent, not to believe what you see on social media, and to try and put that aside. Don't carry any content narrative and pass that around on your WhatsApp groups and nonsense like that. Do your research, look at the history, look at the culture, look at the people. We're the same. There's no difference, whether you're from Punjab in Pakistan or Punjab in India, whether you're Sikh or not. We all we have a whale of a time when we get together. Let me just say that. So it's amazing the laughter we all share, and it hurts me in that perspective, and why I felt it was important to sort of just make this quick recording. I'm going to still walk around a little bit and see, by any chance, does anyone sort of appear holding any flags or anything of that sort. Been here for a couple of days now. I've not seen anything. So wherever they are, they must be in some distant little corner, maybe 10, 12 of them from what I can see on some of the videos. But they just do that camera angle that makes it look as if it's a really big crowd, and it's really nothing. Everybody else is just getting along and doing what they have to do. Kids are fine. So mothers who are worried about their kids in university here, don't be worried. I'm just going to, enjoy this wonderful afternoon, enjoy the sun, enjoy autumn, and I encourage everyone else just to, sort of just to study hard and research a bit and realize that, social media sometimes doesn't represent the reality. Yeah, all right then.